SportsBeat is brought to you by Ken Garth. We hear you.
I'm in the position now that he had, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm excited about it, and hopefully I can keep the team going the way Frank started off with them and got them going in the right direction. Hopefully I can carry that on through.
Oh, he shoves the referee. He's out.
I'm always going to stand up for my players. If I take one on the nose, it's not going to bother.
Coach Jerry Sloan receives and celebrates his 1,000th career victory.
Kevin and Greg are aware of the fact that I may wake up one day and not be here. And basically that's where we are.
Thanks for staying up with us tonight. We lost a legend on Friday. Jerry Sloan passed away at the age of 78. Tonight, we dedicate this entire sports beat to his life and legacy.
Yeah, we take a look back on some of the most memorable moments of Jerry's coaching career. We'll also hear some of his greatest quotes, and we have reactions and memories from his former players and even a pair of rivals.
You know, Jerry Sloan will be remembered for his accomplishments as a basketball player and coach, but he will also be remembered for his character. He possessed values that connected with Utahns. The impact his leadership had in the state is immeasurable. His legacy will live on. Toughness, grit, competitive spirit, hard work, accountability, humility. Values Jerry Sloan learned growing up in Southern Illinois. Born on March 28, 1942, Jerry was the youngest of 10 children. He learned how hard life could be at a young age. His father died when he was just 4 years old. His family lived in poverty. He worked on oil rigs, walking miles on dusty dirt roads to school and back. It was in McLeansboro where Jerry found basketball, a sport that saved him. He started at McLeansboro High School and then at Evansville, where he led the Purple Aces to back-to-back Division II national championships. He was drafted 4th overall in the 1965 NBA draft by the Baltimore Bullets. 1 year later, he was traded to the expansion Chicago Bulls. The original Bull was known for his toughness on defense.
Wouldn't you just love one more time to see old number 4 on that stadium floor growl at referee Jack Madden?
He led the Bulls to the playoffs in their first season. He averaged 15 points and 7 rebounds in 11 NBA seasons. He was a 2-time All-Star, 6-time All-Defense. His number 4 was the first jersey retired by the franchise. He won a lot of games as a player with the Bulls, but he couldn't duplicate that success as their head coach.
Well, you got to win. I mean, I wasn't winning enough games.
He was fired in the middle of his 3rd season.
Front office, they decided that they were going a different direction, and it's not my position to judge them at this point.
His failure in Chicago would lead to a new opportunity in Utah. He got a call from Frank Layden. Jerry was an assistant coach under Frank Layden from 1984 to 1988. On December 12, 1988, Frank Layden abruptly resigned, and Jerry Sloan became the head coach of the Utah Jazz.
I'm in the position now that he had, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm excited about it.
It was the beginning of a Hall of Fame run. The qualities that defined him as a player were the same as a coach. He was a fiery competitor.
Oh, he shoves the referee. He's out. And Sloan throws him a kiss right back.
He don't accept you being tired. He don't accept things like that. But he realized you do get tired. But when that horn blows, you should be ready to play if you got any kind of heart.
There were ups and downs, early playoff exits.
And he said, no, do you want to coach this team? Which means, do you want to fight?
But the team led by future Hall of Famers John Stockton and Karl Malone took on the personality of their coach.
Trailer to the mailman, in your face, Brad Lojas.
And the Jazz won a lot.
Three-pointer, it's good, he did it, the Jazz win the game, incredible, you gotta love it, baby. The Jazz have done it again. Jerry Sloan as happy as he can be.
After years of playoff disappointment, John Stockton sent the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals in 1997. Stockton, open three, hit it! Jerry's reaction will never be forgotten. The Jazz came close, but Michael Jordan stood in the way of that elusive NBA title. As the Stockton to Malone era came to a close, Jerry would keep coaching and keep fighting. He was dealing with losing on the court and adversity off the court. Bobby and Jerry were high school sweethearts. They had 3 children. His wife of 41 years battled breast cancer for 6 years.
But I'm going to do whatever I have to do to stay here with this wonderful man as long as I can.
And I appreciate the support everybody's given us, but it's so damn difficult for us.
Then after battling pancreatic cancer, she died in 2004. It was a dark time for Jerry, but he found happiness again. He met Tammy Jessup. They were married in 2006. As he found happiness again off the court, the Jazz became a winner again on the court. A team that featured Carlos Boozer, Darren Williams, Mehmet Okur, Andre Kirilenko, and Paul Millsap averaged 52 wins over 4 seasons. They won 4 playoff series in 4 years and reached the Western Conference Finals for the 6th time in franchise history. Jerry would receive basketball's highest honor in 2009. He was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. It seemed like Jerry would coach the Jazz forever. But his 23 years as the head coach of the Utah Jazz came to an abrupt end.
Today, the Utah Jazz has accepted the resignation of Jerry Sloan.
On February 10, 2011, after a game against the Chicago Bulls, Jerry Sloan and his longtime assistant Phil Johnson resigned in the middle of the 2010-11 season.
My time is up, and it's time for me to move on.
And today is the end of an amazing era.
Sloan would continue to work for the franchise as an advisor.
No, I knew I'd miss it.
Welcome to Jerry Sloan's Manor Night.
On January 31st, 2014, the Jazz honored Jerry Sloan.
Just want to say you're the best.
By raising a banner which reads 1,223, the number of games he won as head coach of the Jazz.
I thought that's how many technical fouls I had.
Jerry Sloan was a fighter, but there was one fight he could not win.
I was told I have Parkinson's disease with Lewy dementia.
These diseases would eventually take his life, but they cannot take his legacy. Legends never die. The impact he had will live on.
It will live forever. He accomplished so much. The pinnacle, probably his induction to the Hall of Fame in 09. 1,223 regular season and playoff wins with the Jazz for a career that's 4th all-time, and he had the 6th best winning percentage of any coach in NBA history. 2 NBA Finals appearances, 7 division titles, and impressive 20 playoff appearances, 19 with the Jazz. He won 98 playoff games, which ranks 6th most in NBA history, had 13 50-win seasons, and he coached 1,809 consecutive games with the Jazz, 2nd all-time. He was the first coach to ever win 1,000 games with one franchise, and he coached 133 different players as head coach of the Jazz. In a statement to his longevity in Utah, there were 245 head coaching changes throughout the NBA during his 23 years. What a success.
Before Jerry became a Hall of Fame coach, he was a pretty darn good player, drafted by the Baltimore Bullets with the 4th overall pick in the 1965 draft. He was taken in the expansion draft by Chicago the following season and became the original Bull. He was a 2-time All-Star, 6-time All-Defense team selection. In 10 years with the Chicago Bulls, he had 2 triple-doubles in his career, and his career-high scoring was 43 points against the Bucks in 1969. He was the first Bulls player to have his number retired. So many tributes from former players, including Darren Williams on Instagram. I know things didn't end well between us in Utah. However, I'm glad that I got the chance to sit down with him before it was too late. Definitely something that would have haunted me for the rest of my life. Blessed that I got to play for him and learn so much. Mehmet Okur said Sloan taught him so much on and off the floor. Paul Millsap thanked Jerry for the lessons and helping mold him into the great player and man he's become. He will always bring his lunch pail. CJ Miles thanked Jerry for everything and said, "You changed my life for the better." Danielle Marshall says Sloan brought the best out of him in his 2 years in Utah. And Rudy Gobert thanked Jerry Sloan for being one of the few guys that saw something in him when not many people did. And Gordon Chiesa, who was an assistant with Jerry for 16 years, calling his friend Jerry the toughest of the tough.
Great tributes. Jeff Hornacek, he didn't arrive in Utah until his 8th season in the NBA. But he was the perfect fit on a Jerry Sloan coach team. And he was that missing piece that helped get Sloan and the Jazz to the NBA Finals. The last 6+ seasons of his career were spent knocking down threes for Sloan and the Jazz. But when Hornacek first got the call to come to Utah, he admits he was a little intimidated.
I was like, oh, crap. You know, I got to go play for Jerry. I know how intense he is, and that's all defense. But he was welcoming from the beginning, and you know, he was great to me because I had bad knees or bad knee, I should say, and so did he. So he kind of understood that. And, training camps, practices, he could tell, and maybe I was hobbling a little bit, and he'd say, just step out. And so he was a great coach and great guy.
Now, Carlos Boozer, if you'll remember, received a lot of criticism from fans during his time with Utah Jazz because he was out with a lot of injuries, but Jerry always defended Booz, and the two had a great relationship. Carlos paid tribute to Jerry on social media this weekend, giving Coach Sloan credit for allowing him to flourish and take his game to another level. He also called him thoughtful and kind. Carlos Boozer had this to say about his coach, Jerry Sloan, on NBA TV.
He was fiery. He was passionate. As a coach, I can only imagine how he was as a player back when he played with the Bulls. Off the court, he was a teddy bear, man. He had great stories. Like Grant said, he had a great sense of humor. One of those guys, almost a father figure for some of the younger guys that I played with when I was in Utah. Off the court, he was a teddy bear, man. He had great stories. Like Grant said, he had a great sense of humor. And, he's sadly going to be missed.
Sam, those are all the stories I hear, and that was my experience too with Jerry, is when you got him away from those competitive situations, he was just a down-to-earth guy that was easy to talk to, and we're also seeing that echoed with a lot of these other tributes. And I'll also say the one thing, Sam, that continues to come out of these is respect. Whether it was a competitor or a coach or a player that came across Jerry Sloan, or even us in the media, everyone had respect for Jerry Sloan.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think it helps to understand Jerry Sloan as a head coach, to understand his past and his history. And we got a little taste of that earlier in the show today, just on his upbringing, but also him as a player. What a phenomenal, outstanding player he was. He was a scorer. He was a tenacious defender. He was a rebounder, and he was a guard, doing all these things that you see big men doing today. He was not afraid to back down, not afraid to get physical in the paint, and you saw all of that style and personality translate over into his coaching, and a lot of his players adopted that same type of personality and play when they were playing for him on the court as well.
He didn't have the athleticism and a lot of the other gifts that some of those guys had, but he got the most out of everything he had, and he coached the same way as well. So many great tributes, and we're just getting started. Time for a short break. More great memories with Jerry Sloan when we come back.
Including his top 5 confrontations.
Even though he had this gruff persona, he really had a heart of gold.
Up next, hear from those who knew Jerry better than anyone. Mark Eaton and Thurl Bailey. Remember their coach. And we also have a great tribute from Jazz broadcaster Craig Bolerjack.
His versatility and creativity offensively was well admired by most coaches in the NBA.
Yeah, a pair of rival coaches joined us to share their thoughts and memories of Coach Sloan and his legacy. But first, Sloan helping the Jazz Bears save up for a new toy.
The hardest part's going to be finding somebody with a big enough potty mouth to make you any money.
That's a bunch of bull.
SportsBeat is brought to you by Ken Garth. We hear you.
He taught our daughter her first word was puck. So you do the rest of it. So when on the way home, I'm like, no, baby. We just went to basketball practice, not hockey. So we get home and then it registered with me. So anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Oops. Jerry Sloan had a great sense of humor, and that's a great example. We all saw the tough side of Jerry, the fiery competitor, the stern disciplinarian, but just ask his players. There was another side to Jerry Sloan. Mark Eaton took his game to another level under Sloan, making an all-star game in Jerry's first season as head coach. Thurl Bailey played for Jerry when he was an assistant and a head coach. And it's also great to hear from Jazz broadcaster Craig Bolerjack, who came to Utah when Jerry did back in 1985. Bowler covered his entire career, starting at KSL and then as the voice of the Utah Jazz.
think I want people to know that even though he had this gruff persona and he beat up, you know, the officials, and he probably rewrote the dictionary in four-letter words, you know, he really had a heart of gold. He was a kind individual, but he also was a competitor.
In the crazy world of pro sports, he was like this solid anchor, you know, this guy from the heartland of America who grew up in a small farming community and just brought that down-home philosophy with his John Deere hat, you know, to the surrealistic world of professional sports. And I think, especially here in Utah, I think that's what endeared him to everybody.
One of the reasons Utah Jazz were so successful during Jerry Sloan's 23 years as head coach was he established a culture based on toughness, discipline, accountability, hard work. Those values continue to be a part of the Utah Jazz organization, and he deserves credit for establishing that.
He was hired by Coach Frank Layton a few years into my tenure with the Jazz to bring that toughness. Now, I'm not sure we could have foreseen, you know, what he would do at the helm going forward, but, you know, Frank Layton knew something. He knew what Jerry had, and Jerry brought it to the team, and that was the team. You talk about identities of teams. That came from Jerry Sloan.
The great thing about him is he was consistent. He was the same guy every day. And I think from a player standpoint, I always appreciated that because you knew what to expect. There wasn't a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like, he was real. This is what he expected. And you could see the results on the court by listening to what he had to say and then going out and watching it occur the next night on the, you know, in the arena.
He always told me, you know, Buller, if you need somebody in a bar fight, I'm your guy. I may lose an arm, but, you know, but I'll keep fighting. And that's just Jerry.
Well, Jerry Sloan is near the top of an elite list. Just 9 coaches in the 74-year history of the NBA have won 1,000 or more games. 2 spots behind Jerry on the list is one of his longtime rivals, George Karl. The 2 coaches went head-to-head in several playoff series. The 1996 Western Conference Finals between the Jazz and Sonics, that one may be the most memorable of those series. The Sonics winning Game 7, delaying the first appearance of the Jazz in the NBA Finals. Coach Karl told me that the Sonics' success was partly because he wanted his team to be like Sloan's.
The Sloan, Stockton, Malone versus Karl, Payton, and Kemp is something I'm always going to remember, because we grew up trying to almost copy the success of the Utah Jazz.
When Coach Karl was in Denver, the Jazz-Nuggets rivalry was renewed, with one of those 2 teams winning the division title in 5 straight seasons. Karl said that he admired Sloan's offensive versatility and creativity in those years.
Smart is so much not talked about by NBA fans and media, but having an intelligent basketball team was just a forte of a Jerry Sloan basketball team.
Hall of Famer Dan Issel coached the Nuggets in 6 different seasons. The 1993-94 campaign was his best, taking the 8th-seeded Nuggets into the conference semifinals for a 7-game tilt with the Jazz. And when he was on the Nuggets sidelines, he says that there was just one coach he wanted to be like.
When I was coaching, I tried to emulate Jerry, you know, because he just had that air about him that he was going to do everything in his fiber to win the basketball game. And that was the way he was as a player, and that was the way that he was as a coach.
Another coaching rival paid tribute to Jerry Sloan. Spurs head coach Greg Popovich made this statement, quote, "He was genuine and true, and that is rare. He was a mentor for me from afar until I got to know him. A man who suffered no fools. He possessed a humor often disguised and a heart as big as the prairie." You know, this show wouldn't be complete without hearing a tribute to Jerry from John Stockton and Karl Malone. Rod Zundel sat down with the 2 legends when Jerry's banner was raised back in 2014. It's so good, we had to share it again.
He never just singled us out. He would always say, "Guys, good job." But you would catch him every now and then with just a smile on his face. And that right there, he was approving it. So that's the most important thing.
He was really getting on me young in my career to be more of a leader, be more assertive, be more vocal on the court. And so the next game I had an opportunity. The game wasn't going our way, and so I stepped up and called the timeout for our team so it wouldn't get away from us. And when I got to the bench, I was greeted rather rudely by Coach Sloan, who thought he was the only one that should call a timeout, and really kind of deflated my bubble a little bit. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. He said, no, do you want to coach this team? Which means, do you want to fight to be the coach of this team? And so I declined.
To have a coach that believed in the system and believed in the plays, even though they maybe wasn't as flashy as people would like. He stuck with them for how many years? Yeah. So that's what I remember the most about Coach Sloan.
We had the benefit of playing with him, and we all succeeded because of great leadership on his part. And so to think of what the possibilities would be without, I'm not going there. Frank Layden used to tell me, he says, look, if you're coaching and you're not making your players better people, then you're not doing a very good job of coaching. And I think about that moving forward for my own self when I'm coaching kids, but I also think back and say, yeah, you know what, he must have gotten that, he must have said the same thing to Jerry, because I think he made all of us better in a lot of ways.
He made us good people, better people, by being around him, the way he did things. And I said it earlier, my biggest thing was I didn't want to disappoint people that counted on me. That's one of the guys right there, and then Coach Sloan was another one, because they believed in me when a lot of other people didn't.
I don't think there's a greater tribute to a coach. I imagine all of you watching now had a favorite Jerry Sloan moment, and so did we.
Yeah, we could fill an entire hour or even more with just those moments. So we did a bit of trimming, and we did narrow it down to a few of our favorites. There's one thing that Sloan had from day one, and that is respect. And if you weren't going to give him what he asked, he would let you know about it. Sloan was never afraid to confront one of his own players. In fact, he did it several times, getting in their faces, sending players back to the locker room. Not even the mailman was immune from being called out to the media.
You can blame it on somebody else, but if you don't execute and do your job, you're not concentrating. I mean, if you're running a pick and roll and you don't roll, you can blame somebody else all you want, but who's supposed to roll? Somebody else roll for you?
At the same time, Jerry was always quick to defend his players when bad calls were made. Here he gets a technical as an assistant coach in 1986, arguing a call made against Del Curry, who was guarding Michael Jordan.
Gives a technical on Sloan, who says, make him work. I know exactly what's happening here.
Well, when Stockton hit the shot, Karl Malone was the first to celebrate with them, but not far behind the rest of the pack was Coach Sloan, hands in the air, smile on his face as the coach gets to his first NBA Finals with the Jazz. That emotion there from Sloan is a moment we will always cherish.
1997 NBA Finals Game 4, the Jazz even the series with the Chicago Bulls at 2 games apiece. After a thrilling Game 4 win, that hug between Sloan and the mailman will also never be forgotten.
The Jazz were expected to be the worst team in the league in the 2003-04 season after losing Stockton and Malone. Instead, Jerry did the best coaching job of his career. They saw their 20-year playoff streak end, but they did reach 42 wins, the 19th straight winning season for the Jazz. How he never won a Coach of the Year award, I will never understand.
It's an injustice.
Season which is ahead.
Jerry Sloan was tough and did a great job handling a lot of different challenges as a head coach, but one challenge he didn't know how to tackle was the emotions of Andrei Kirilenko in the 2007 playoffs.
And I know it's very uncomfortable for him. It's uncomfortable for me. I'm not happy with it, but I don't know exactly how to handle it. I'm not equipped.
In 2006, in a game against the San Antonio Spurs, this crazy fan ran out on the court and started dancing. Look, the first person to confront the fan was Jerry Sloan. He even beat the security to him.
Somebody will knock the out of him and get him off the floor, because, I mean, you don't, first of all, if you're a player, you should never let the guy get that far to begin with. You never know what's going to happen. If I'm a player, I'll knock him off the floor before he gets on there if I see some weirdo like that. And you take care of business later on. I mean, you can't sit around and wait. Some guy might have something crazy, do something crazy, and then you will say, well, should have done something faster. Knock him on his and get him off the floor to start with. Did I say something to Cuban?
It looked like there was an
No, I was
exchange
talking to
back
the guy
and
up in the stands. I didn't know it was Cuban. I don't know him personally. No, I'm not offended by it. He's long distance. As long as it's long distance, not a problem.
Yeah, Jerry and Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban got into it after the Jazz beat the Mavs in Game 2 of their first-round series in 2001.
December 11, 2006, Jerry Sloan becomes the 5th coach in NBA history to reach 1,000 wins after a 101-79 win over the Dallas Mavericks. Jerry didn't like the attention from it, but it mattered to fans who celebrated their coach's accomplishment with passion.
In 2014, Coach Sloan was back in the arena as the Jazz permanently honored him by raising the banner into the rafters with that number 1223, the total number of wins that he had as coach with the Utah Jazz. And Coach Sloan never backed down from a challenge. We'll show you some of his top confrontations coming up, but first, a look back at his Hall of Fame induction.
I've learned that there are many things in life more important than basketball. But meeting my wife Tammy and my stepson Red has allowed me to continue on with my career in basketball when I question my strength to do so. And thank all of you for being here this evening, and congratulations my fellow inductees. I could not be prouder. It's truly an honor. Thank you all very much.
For the United States Air Force, Jerry Sloan of the Chicago Bulls.
Professional basketball is a game made up of superstars. No matter how good you are, you have to keep practicing to keep up. You can join a team of superstars, the United States Air Force. Whether you're a man or a woman, whether you qualify to be an officer or an airman, the Air Force will train you to be part of their super team in super jobs with super skills. You'll learn a lasting skill that will stay with you in and out of the Air Force.
How do I get on your super team?
What are your qualifications?
Are you putting me on?
What team did you play for last year?
Oh, how great is that? Well, before his Hall of Fame coaching career, Jerry Sloan was one of the top players in the NBA. He was a tenacious defender that outworked everyone on the court. He was one of the Bulls' leading scorers for a decade, and for a guard, he was never afraid to knock bodies around in the paint. Former KSL Sports anchor Jim Nantz talked with Sloan about those playing days shortly after he arrived in Utah as an assistant coach.
For Jerry Sloan, this season has been one continuous road trip.
Hello, Jerry.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good, and you?
Not too bad.
Not bad when you consider that home for Jerry Sloan in Salt Lake City is a downtown hotel.
Really nice place. I'd hate to think that I'd have to be somewhere else, especially without my family.
In the Midwest is where Jerry Sloan finds his basketball roots. After starring at Evansville University, he became a first-round pick of the Baltimore Bullets in 1965. 1 year later, however, he was an expansion draft choice of the Chicago Bulls, where he became a fan favorite for 10 seasons.
Chicago, I feel, is a great city. I think it's a great basketball city. I always felt like the fans in Chicago, there were many cases we didn't have a lot of fans, but they were very enthusiastic people when they came to the games. They got involved, and they appreciated the fact that a player would work hard.
And working hard is what Sloan's game was all about. Practically every year, you could find his name on the league's all-defensive squad. 2 times he made the NBA All-Star team, and he finished his career with a 15-point average, and more impressively, second on the Bulls' all-time rebounding list. Not bad for a 6'5" guard who always gave it 100%. After retiring as a player in 1976, Sloan took up coaching. 3 years later, he was named as the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. Coincidentally, his first move as a head coach was to name Phil Johnson as his assistant coach. Jerry lasted a little more than 2 seasons with the Bulls and led them in 1981 to the best record they've had in a decade. However, after a sluggish start to the next season, Sloan was surprisingly let go. The Bulls have never made the playoffs since.
I wouldn't trade the years that I had in coaching for any years that I played, because I enjoyed coaching and also enjoyed playing, but I also had, it was just a terrific experience.
For now, Sloan is looking forward to the experience of some good old home cooking at the end of the season, as well as a long and productive career right here in Utah.
I'm not out campaigning to get a head coaching job. That's not what I'm looking for. I just hope that I can help this team in any way that I can.
So I think we learned that Jerry Sloan was a player that if you messed with him, he was going to dish it right back. He had that same attitude as a coach.
Yes, he did. Jerry wasn't going to back down from anyone. Referees, team owners like Mark Cuban, and especially players 40 years younger than him. We have enough Jerry Sloan fights. We had to do a top 5.
Johnson will take over now. Sloan arguing now with Bill Johnson trying to restrain him.
This confrontation with referee Courtney Kirkland led to a 7-game suspension for Jerry in 2003. 10 years before that, referee Bob Delaney got up in Jerry's personal space, and Jerry let him know that wasn't cool. This one cost Sloan a game and $2,000.
Well, once upon a time in 2001, Kenyon Martin took a swing at the mailman. That was enough to get Jerry up out of his seat, and it took Gordy Chiesa and others on the staff to hold him back to keep him from going out onto the floor. Kmart did get the heave-ho there.
Jerry Sloan walked, hey, if you don't, you mother, I'm like, oh, ninja. When I'm right with him, what's what you want to do, old man? He like, oh, Kenyon about that. But I respect Jeremy. He took up for his guy.
January 9th, 2007, Jazz versus the Mavericks. Jerry Stackhouse catches Matt Harpring with an elbow to the chin. Moments later, the two Jerrys are going to tangle with words. Stackhouse jawing with Sloan, and you know, Jerry got a word in.
This is an all-timer here. In the 1999 Western Conference semifinals, Portland's Rasheed Wallace got tangled up with Thurl Bailey, and with a full head of steam, Sloan showed off a nice swim move there in pursuit of Wallace. We nearly had a fight night at the Rose Garden.
I'm always going to stand up for my players. If I take one on the nose, it's not going to bother me. I don't want my players to get banged up, and hopefully they don't do something silly.
Right side, he'll go right to left. His pass gets away. Here's a fight as Rodman wants to go after Stockton.
Jerry Sloan now is letting Dennis Rodman know.
He said, if you want a piece of somebody, get me.
Yeah, Sloan had multiple confrontations with Dennis Rodman over the years, but this dust-up in Detroit in 1991 was the best. After Rodman took out John Stockton, Jerry took exception. Rodman pointed at Sloan after making a free throw. Jerry blew him a kiss. Then, after getting ejected, Rodman walked past Sloan, and the two continued talking. And you know, Jerry wasn't going to have that. Classic Jerry Sloan. Here comes right here. Look, Rodman and Sloan. Rodman running away. You better hurry back in the locker room. Jerry ain't going to have none of that. Up next, some of our favorite Jerry Sloan sound bites. But first, Defense 101 with Coach Sloan.
Put your shirt in your pants. Then we'll talk to you. There you go. Very good. You look good. See, more like a basketball player instead of somebody taking a nap. So if you take a dribble this way, I want my hand down here, not up here. All right. Most people will go when the guy starts to dribble and to keep his hands up here. Keep your hand down here where the ball is. Okay, so if you reverse it, if you reverse the ball, this hand is try to step up and under the guy. So you can get your hands under it right there. Always have your hands under the ball. Try to come up this way rather than this way. Okay. Because you get away with a lot more fouls once you keep your rear end down and your head up.
Rear end down, head up.
Pretty good stance right there. Now go, Jeff. You stay right on top, and that's great. Great. That's it. Keep going. Don't lose him. Okay. Great. That's good. You were very good. I'm surprised.
Why are you surprised?
Look at this.
Jerry Sloan is absolutely the greatest. The world of basketball, forget that. The world of life. You're the greatest of champions, Jerry. You make us proud. You make us excited. You make us lucky to live in your world. Thanks for the gift of life. Thanks for the gift of light. There's no one like you, Jerry. There never has been, and there certainly never will be again. We love you, Jerry.
That was a stream of consciousness from Bill Walton after Jerry Sloan resigned in 2011. Bill has a way with words, and so does Jerry Sloan. Some of them are four-letter words. We always listened when he spoke. You never knew what wit or wisdom would come out.
Yeah, either way, you knew it would be entertaining, though, right? Take a listen to some of the best from the mouth of Jerry Sloan.
Oh, you can't win 82 if you don't win the first one. You know, that's that old saying.
I'd say in shape for shaking hands. I think they're in good enough shape to do that. But to play a basketball game, there are some of them not ready.
Can they play with hair like that on your team?
No, I don't like your face.
Who are you looking at anyway?
I don't like my face.
We handle him with kid gloves a little bit?
No, I'm not worried about kid gloves. I don't even like kid gloves. I'd rather have work gloves.
Deshaun fouled him. I would have fouled him too. I'd have knocked him on his If he tried to embarrass the team after a 20-point lead, I'm right. I'd knock him down.
I thought we played awfully soft.
Rookies need to be seen and not heard. He's a huge body. He learns how to play a little bit more and works at it and doesn't jackpot around too much, he'll be fine.
If you're a basketball player, there's 24 hours in every day. You know, and I know people that get tired of hearing me talking about, well, I'm too hard on these guys, but what else they got to do?
Have you stressed the fact about having them down and not letting them back in this series?
I think they know that. This is not high school. Shooting guard. We're trying to find a guard that's a making guard. I've heard so much about shooting guards. Anybody can shoot it. We just try to get somebody that's going to make them at that position. He's got to figure out what he wants to do, play basketball or be a clown. I'll be like a dizzy duck. You know what I'm talking about. No idea. I'll fill you in later.
So many great memories. We want to extend our condolences to Tammy and the entire Sloan family. Thank you for sharing Jerry Sloan with us for all these years.
Rest in peace, Coach.